So we are going to finally finish up chapter 8, and I was going to move on to chapter 9, but I'm just telling you this last little bit of chapter 8 speaks volumes and is so important. So I'm going to read from it today, Genesis chapter 8, starting in 18, when they're coming out of the boat, right? And Noah went forth, and his wife and his sons and their wives with him. Every beast, every creeping thing, every bird, and whatever moves on the land went forth by families out of the ark. And Noah built an altar to the Lord, and took of every clean animal and of every clean fowl, and offered burnt offerings on the altar. When the Lord smelled the pleasing odor, the Lord said to himself, I will never again curse the ground because of man, for the imagination of man's heart is evil and wicked from his youth. Neither will I ever again smite and destroy every living thing as I have done. So this is going to be a very quick one today, because the biggest thing is there's two parts to this that are so important. The first thing is, as soon as he came off the boat, what did he do? He was thankful and he built an altar. So he was already of the religious world. He knew the things, at this point, we don't have record of it because it's actually recorded later in the Pentateuch of what the exact directions are for sacrifice and things like that. But they did already understand it. They understood how they should worship. And what did Noah do? What was the first thing he did? He came off the boat and he thanked God. He built that altar. He offered a sacrifice. Now, there's two things about this sacrifice that are amazing to me. The first one is there's only 7 of those clean animals left. Now, of everything else, there's only 2. But of the clean animals, God had already provided for those 7. So there's only 7. And you can imagine him saying, well, let's get the herd built back up, and then we'll sacrifice and say thanks to God. But no, he did it immediately. Immediately he made the sacrifice. And so to me, it's showing that it's a sacrificial sacrifice. Like, he could have wiped out all the cattle, or he could have wiped out all the clean birds of the air with this sacrifice. But he knew that God had to come first. Thanking God had to come first. This sacrifice had to come first. And so that's the first part that's amazing to me. He knew what he needed to do. He needed worship. And sacrificial worship is what is pleasing. So then it says that God was pleased with it. It says that he smelled the smell of burning meat and he was satisfied. And I hear every man in there going, "Arr, arr, arr, arr." Yes, he did. God loves meat, grilling meat. And so I think that's funny, but the truth is he loved the smell of it because he knew what it represented. It represented that Noah's heart was devoted to God. It was thankful for God. It was thankful for what God had done. And so that's the first part is Noah knew exactly what to do. And the second thing is God provided so that Noah could do what he needed to do. Now stay with me here. When God gave the instructions, we know that so far, God had given very detailed instructions to Noah, and he had to obey them on building it, the dimensions, all of the things. He also gave very specific directions on what animals to bring, how many, what kind, how, when, where, all of the things, right? And he actually made him take 7 of the clean things because he provided a way for Noah to worship him. And I think this is amazing. I think that it's cool because our God provides a way for us to do what's right. And so over and over in our lives, God will continue to say, I'll give you this if you do right. And I think this is so important, even in little things like learning to tithe. Like, God gives it to us, and he gives us enough so that tithing doesn't hurt us. And so I think that's awesome. So I love this last concept that we're talking about. Noah, as he's coming off the boat, is the first thing he does is worship. And the second thing is that God provides so that he can worship. So I think this is so cool. Something I wanted to focus on this week. Next week, we'll finally get into chapter 9.